Welcome back to the channel, everyone. We're going to be talking about another comparison today, and this might look familiar, this might look like I've already done it, but that's not necessarily the case. Yesterday I compared the Galaxy S20 to the Galaxy S6, and now I want to compare the Galaxy S20 to the Galaxy S6 Edge. Now, this was the first time we saw the Edge display on a Galaxy S phone. The first time we saw an Edge display was on the Note Edge, which I've already reviewed and I actually still own. But with the Galaxy S6 Edge, that was a very interesting phone at the end of the day. I think it brought a cool concept to the table, but they didn't refine it until with the Galaxy S8, if I'm being honest. Now, this is not a comparison to see which phone is better, because obviously the Galaxy S6 Edge is the better phone. Just kidding, the Galaxy S20 is the better phone. I mean, it's quite obvious. You don't even need a brain. You don't even need to know anything about phones to figure out that the S20 is the better phone. But I want to see the differences, and I want to see the capabilities and changes that have happened from the S6 Edge to the Galaxy S20. And if I'm being honest, in the market, if I had to choose one, obviously I would pick the S20, but this isn't necessarily the two phones that are available in the market right now. The S6 Edge, I think on Amazon, are still selling for like $150, which is still kind of a lot for a phone like that. The S20 still costs that $1,000. However, there's a phone that sits right in the middle of these, and it's a Samsung Galaxy, and it's a phone that I've been recommending like crazy. It's such a good phone. That phone is the Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus. That phone, which sits right in the middle of these two, kind of more, not really, but it's such a capable phone. At the end of the day, you can do so much still with a phone like that, and it costs less than $500. It's less than half the price as the S20, and it's like barely even a year old. It's a little bit over a year old. It's still getting software updates. I would highly recommend you, if you don't have all the money in the world to spend, get the Galaxy S10 Plus. That is the best price per dollar phone right now in the market, in my opinion. But if you have all the money in the world, get the Galaxy S20. That's the best way to go. But definitely do not get the S6 Edge. I can definitely tell you that. Now, that pretty much covers in the price point sector. I already just kind of got into it. Looking on the front of both phones, the Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge, which came out in 2015, so it'll pretty much be turning 5 years old at this point, has a 5.1-inch Super AMOLED display. It is a 1440p display, which is really nice. I really do like that. And believe it or not, it has 577 pixels per inch, which is crazy. That has more pixels per inch than the Samsung Galaxy S20, which is pretty insane. And I do think that at the end of the day, the Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge's panel was probably not only its biggest highlight, but its biggest selling point as well, because the Edge panel itself was one thing that really marketed this phone, and it was more expensive than the standard Galaxy S6, rightfully so. It was, I think, a little bit bigger, but it had that Edge panel which looked a lot better in person, and I think it looks really cool, and I think it's a cool concept, but I would never use a phone that had that big of an edge. With the Galaxy S20, it's a little bit different. It kind of, is a little bit there. With the S6 Edge, it was just right in your face, and that's something that I didn't like and a lot of people didn't like. However, there's still quite a bit of bezel on the top and bottom. You have that home button on the front that doubles as a fingerprint sensor, and really on the outside, that pretty much covers it, at least in the front. There's not a lot of differences going on between them. There's not a lot of changes that have happened since then. It still has quite a bit of bezel, and the screen though is really, really nice. I'll give it that. Whereas the Galaxy S20 has that 6.2-inch dynamic AMOLED display. That one is 1440p as well, and for sure at the end of the day, the Samsung Galaxy S20 has the better panel. But here's the weird thing, the S6 Edge, for some reason, I don't know why, the colors look a little bit sharper. I feel like with the S20, the panel just looks a little bit washed out. I think maybe I'm seeing things wrong. Maybe I need to calibrate my screen a little bit better. But for some reason, the S6 Edge's panel, the colors look darker than the S20, which is something I really do like. So maybe I fall in that minority where, I don't really like the lighter poppy colors. I like the darker, sharper colors, in my opinion, if that makes any sense. But the Galaxy S20 also has that really cool feature of being able to do 120Hz refresh rate on that display, which is something that not a lot of phones have the capability of doing, and it's seriously one of the coolest things ever. So if I were you, I would 100% recommend turning that on. And if you've never seen it before in person, I would recommend going to Best Buy, going to T-Mobile, AT&T, wherever your phone supplier is, and go check it out and turn on motion smoothness and see how crazy of a display you have at that point. Now, it does suck up a little bit of battery life, but it's still a really, really cool feature at the end of the day, and I would highly recommend you to at least try it out, because once you do it, you'll probably fall in love with it immediately. So in terms of the front, that pretty much covers it. The Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge has a micro USB port on the bottom with a headphone jack, which is cool. The S20 only has a USB Type-C port, which is still cool. I would rather have that than a micro USB port any day. On the back, glass backs on both, single camera setup on the S6 Edge. The S20 has a triple camera setup and a glass back on both. And the weird thing is that the S6 Edge does not have a micro SD card slot, where the Galaxy S20 does have a micro SD card slot, which is pretty insane. Now, there's a bird chirping on my window if you can hear it. It's gonna annoy me. And that is something that's really, really cool. You know, the fact that we have a micro SD card slot on the newer phone where we didn't have it on the older phone is pretty insane. So in terms of the outside, that really pretty much covers it. Now hitting on the software, the Galaxy S6 Edge came out with Android 5.0.2 Lollipop. We are able to get Android 7.0 Nougat on it, which is, I guess, okay. It could have handled Android Oreo, and it did end on TouchWiz, which is probably the worst way it could have ended. For a phone that sold as well as the S6 Edge, I feel like Samsung should have admitted their fault and at least extended the software version up to another version. It's pretty insane that they didn't do that. I mean, even years after, we're still talking about it. Whereas on the Samsung Galaxy S20, we started off with Android 10. We were able to get One UI 2 on it, which is really cool. We're going to get One UI 3 and then One UI 4, which is going to be awesome. But again, One UI still has a long way to go, in my opinion. It's still not perfect. It has a lot of quirks it has to kind of clear out a little bit. But here's the thing, okay, with the Galaxy S6 Edge, at least with the S6, we have the capability of rooting and custom ROMing some versions of those phones, and I'm pretty sure I'm able to custom ROM my Galaxy S6 Edge, so if I'm able to do that, I'll drop a video on it and explain my little experience with it. But I'm not too sure yet, so I'll do a little bit of research, but some S6 Edges and some S6s have that capability of doing so, which is really cool. So in terms of software, that really pretty much covers it. Now hitting on the performance, the Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge has the Exynos 7420 octa chipset, an octa-core CPU, and there were 3 different models of this phone, a 32, 64, and 128 gig model, and all those models had 3 gigabytes of RAM, where the Samsung Galaxy S20 has a Qualcomm Snapdragon 865 chipset, an octa-core CPU, and Adreno 650 GPU. There's only one model of the Galaxy S20, the 128 gig model with 12 gigabytes of RAM. What I can tell you about the performance is that for the S6 Edge, it's not a horrible performing phone, you know what I mean? Like, it's not, no, I take that back, it's pretty bad. At least now in 2020, I think maybe back in 2015, 2016, maybe it was okay, but especially now, I just have a really bad experience with this phone. It's just so choppy, and like anytime, even pulling down the status bar on this phone is just such a sloppy experience, and it's crazy to see, you know, the difference between the S6 Edge and even the S7 or S7 Edge, because the S7 and S7 Edge are actually not that bad performing phone for at least now in 2020. Yeah, it's not perfect, it's outdated in software and really outdated in hardware, but performance still isn't extremely bad. With the S6 Edge, it's just like so sloppy. That's like the best word I can come up with, and I don't understand why they do that. It's such a weird experience that I have overall with it, which I find really, really weird. Whereas on the Galaxy S20, you already know it's the fastest phone in the market. It's an extremely fast phone. Anything you're going to do with it, it's going to be able to do at the end of the day. It's one of my favorite phones in the market right now, and like I said, anything you're going to do with it, it's going to be able to handle, which is really, really cool, and I love seeing that for a phone like this. But one thing I've been saying is that, you know, Samsung phones kind of tend to depreciate a lot faster in performance than a lot of other phones, especially iOS. So if I have a Samsung phone for a long time, especially next year, I'm curious to see how fast it'll be next year, because, you know, these phones tend to slow down. My S10 is not extremely slow, but it's definitely slower now than what it was last year. Whereas my 10S, you know, it really hasn't slowed down that much. So I'm curious to see what this phone's going to be next year, but as of right now, it's like one of the fastest phones I've ever used in my life. So that pretty much covers it up in terms of performance. It's much faster than the Galaxy S6 Edge. Now hitting on the camera, the S6 Edge has a 16 megapixel sensor on the back, whereas on the Galaxy S20 has a 12 megapixel wide angle lens, a 64 megapixel telephoto lens, then a 12 megapixel ultra wide sensor. And I don't even have to say anything, I don't even have to show anything. The Galaxy S20 has a far better camera than the Galaxy S6 Edge. Not only do we have the capability of doing 4K at 60 frames, where on the S6 Edge only 4K at 30, but we have the capability of shooting 8K videos, which is insane. That is something that I've never even thought of, you know, it's something I never even thought of. Like, I'm not even shooting my videos in 4K yet, and we already have the capability on the S20 of doing 8K, which is insane, and I love seeing that. So at the end of the day, for sure, the Galaxy S20 has the far better camera sensors than the Galaxy S6 Edge. On the front, 10 megapixel sensor on the S20, 5 megapixels on the S6 Edge, and don't even have to say anything else, the Galaxy S20 by far has the better camera sensors at the end of the day than the Galaxy S6 Edge for sure. Now ending it off with the battery life, the Galaxy S6 Edge had a 2600 mAh battery, while the Galaxy S20 has a 4000 mAh battery, and the Galaxy S6 Edge really had really bad battery life even from the beginning of its day. It had a really high resolution screen, but they enclosed that battery and they made it smaller, which made no sense coming from the S5. So for sure, at the end of the day, the S20 will already have the better battery life, whether you have that 120Hz refresh rate or not. But the other thing is that you have reverse wireless charging, which is an insanely awesome feature. You have that capability on the Galaxy S20 S20 where you don't have that on the S6 Edge. And to kind of sum up the video and to answer the question, bro, if I'm being honest, the Galaxy S20 is like the best phone, one of the best phones in the market right now. It's still extremely expensive. It's probably not even worth it to a lot of people, but it's an extremely capable phone for if you can afford it. Obviously get the S20. I mean, there's really nothing to hate on it. Maybe the price point and the fact that there's no E series, but that really has nothing to do with this phone. There's really nothing crazy about this phone that made it, unbearable or unusable or anything like that yet. And the S6 Edge, I would highly not recommend picking it up. I would, just keep it away. Don't pick it up at all. If you need to, pick up a Galaxy S10 Plus or a Galaxy S10. Those two phones are going to do you far better than the Galaxy S6 Edge. And I'll go ahead and find the cheapest S10s and S10 Pluses on Amazon. I'll link them down below, as well as the S20 if you want to buy them from there. It'd be much easier for you. So that pretty much covers it. If you guys have any questions or anything, leave it down in the comment section below. Hit that like button, that means so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys could hit that. Also, check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my second channel. All those links are linked down below. I'd really appreciate if you guys could check it out. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.